is a tactical RPG, and it's got a card deck builder, which is sort of card deck building elements in it. I guess the thing that makes it a little bit different from other games is that you can actually form hands in the game, so you can do. Think of a game like poker where you can, two of a kind, three of a kind, should say pair, three of a kind, straights, flushes, all those sort of things. You can do that in this game, which I don't think you can do in a tactical RPG elsewhere. So it's pretty strategic, I guess, in that sense. So Dolven is actually the second part of a 3-part story. So we're doing the second part. The next part we'll do is the first part, and then so it's a bit Star Wars kind of Yoda style. So we're starting with the Empire Strikes Back. The story basically starts out. I'll not give away too much, but basically it starts out where a town, and there's actually a cutscene in the first part of the game which explains it or sort of shows it. Where basically there's these wolves that are kind of attacking the town, and a priest kind of saves them, and in the meantime a child has been taken from the town, and so the priest knows where the wolves come from, and so you are sort of thrown into this position where you've got to go and save these this little girl. And so you start out customizing your character. You jump into the game, and you eventually meet this werewolf who's taken the child, and you have to try and get through puzzles and battles and things like that to get to the werewolf and try and find out where the child is. So that's kind of the setup. Is you're along the way you're meeting characters. You're building up your team. You're getting new sort of recruits as you go through, and they have their own backstories as well. And so the idea is that you're basically trying to find this girl, and there is a bit of a twist as well. So if you do get the chance to play it, there's a twist in the demo, and there'll also be a twist in the final release. So if you do get a chance to play, I think the demo takes usually people take about an hour to finish it. It's a full dungeon, and it goes through a bit of that story. So we've tried to make it so that it's easy just to pick up and start playing, but if you want to go really deep, you can. So there's basically a kind of a paper, scissors, rock sort of strategy to it, I guess. And the way it works is you have 3 archetypes. You have strength, intellect, and dexterity, right? And they are your 3 sort of archetypes of classes. So strength has the guardian and the warrior, agility has the ranger, also the archer and the rogue, and intellect has the mage and the cleric, right? So they're the 3 different archetypes. Now you also have 3 suits of cards. So you have strength, intellect, and dexterity in cards as well. And so the way you play the cards, they can affect the character archetypes differently. So for example, if you play a strength card on your warrior or guardian, it'll increase the strength, which also gives them more health. Now, they've already got a lot of health, but it kind of adds more to that as well and does more damage. If you do a dexterity card on a rogue, it increases their critical hit chance. So there's that sort of a aspect to it as well. So it's not just playing cards, it's thinking about, okay, where's the position of my character, and can I sort of optimize the card play on top of the hand formation, and so there's that aspect to it, and there's a whole bunch of gear in there as well. So you get mad loot. Again, there's sort of 3 types of gear. So there's metal, which goes on your guardian, your warrior. There's leather, which is dexterity, and cloth, which is your on your intellect. So there's that whole aspect of it as well, which can sort of change the game, and there's more to come on top of that as well. I love old school games, like turn-based games like XCOM and Baldur's Gate, the earlier sort of Baldur's Gate. I used to play game called Ultima, not the online one, but there was ones even earlier than that, and they all had this sort of turn-based combat. Big fan of Divinity Original Sin as well. And I think the thing I like about it is you can sort of set up the fights and then think about it for a bit and then come up with the best move. And a lot of the times it fails, but you can then sort of learn from it and then go back and kind of have another go, perhaps when you get more gear, or you sort of understand the strategies a bit better. So that was one side of it. I love those sort of things. In fact, probably the first game that I played was a game called Rogue, which was on an IBM, I think it was a 086, showing my age here, in the 80s. And it was really cool. It was just like a little ASCII game where you'd be running around and you'd run into an enemy, and then you'd have to take turns to fight the enemy. So from an early age, I always kind of liked those sort of things, and even board games and stuff. And then I also love card games. So I played a lot of things like that back in the day. My folks used to go to a beach house that my grandparents had, and we'd play, games like 500 and Jim Runny, and more recently I've been playing a lot of poker. Probably shouldn't play as much poker as I do, but play a lot of poker. And I thought, well, why not join those two things together? I enjoy both of them, and Dolven is the result. Stepping back a bit, I've always kind of made games ever since I really saw them on the IBM 386. I used to love just, how does that work? How does that actually and so I've always been kind of sort of playing around with programming languages and things like that. I think, in terms of the development experience, a lot of it stemmed from, my passion for creativity, especially with programming languages. So I've made a few games before, but nothing kind of like this. And I thought, I want to set out and actually, do something, follow it all the way through. I've still got games that I've made and haven't published at all. I think there's one online you can play right now, but this is kind of the first one. I thought, right, I'm going to actually do something and try and finish it off this time, get it out there. And so I'm thinking, all right, let's make something. Let's make something that's really worthwhile. So, like any sort of developer who has stars in their eyes, I thought I'll make an MMO, right? Easy, nice simple game. Because I thought, well, I've been working in software engineering for about 25, nearly 30 years, and I've worked in all different sort of markets. So things like logistics and utilities and even business intelligence and things like that. And I thought, okay, I'll just take that experience and I'll just make a game, because I know about web frameworks, I know about all that works. Anyway, game development is just completely different to that. It's totally opposite. I thought it would be intuitive. I thought it would be, something I just pick up. And I basically got to the point with this MMO that I was building, where building a multiplayer game would basically mean that I couldn't complete it, this century or something. It would be crazy. I was just sitting there, for months, trying to get the networking right, to the point where I started to write my own networking library. So not a good start. And I thought, right, I've got to scale it down. And so that's where I kind of came to the conclusion it's going to be single player to start with. I won't ever rule out multiplayer, but I sort of thought, well, we'll start a little bit smaller and use, I guess I still have used a lot of my experience from earlier development, where I focus on building tools. So I build the tools which allow me to create things like characters and dungeons and items really quickly. And so, just recently, we've started to put in the Archer, which is a new class in Dolven. And I'm 95% of the way there. 5% is always the hardest bit, but I'm 95% of the way there, and it's taken me a week. So, that's just been refining those tools. Whereas the first time I built one of the characters, it took me a couple of months. So being able to bring that down and really squash the development time down by using sort of refining these tools has been big positive in the journey in development, for sure. So I took the MMO and I just shelved it and I started a completely new project. So, but I did grab some of the things, like for example, there's a system in there. It's a plugin for Unity, which is the engine that I use, that I built, that would basically it would create all the equipment for me. So I already had that in my failed MMO. And so I took that, and kind of use bits and pieces. So yeah, it was kind of back to the drawing board, to be honest. Yeah, and it's funny developing stuff. You always think, there's things you think, oh, it's going to be nice and easy to do that. Those are really the hard bits. The ones you think it'll be challenging art. So it's kind of, yeah, it's a sort of bizarre journey, I guess, but fun. I mean, I love it. I love doing it. There's a lot on the horizon. In fact, we've got a massive backlog. We're not going to get it all done before release, that's for sure. We're going to have to cut it back. But we're looking at essentially releasing with probably 6 to 8 hours of gameplay, which would mean at least 2 more biomes. So at the moment, what you're playing in the demo is 1 biome. It's the Stronghold biome. There'll be at least 1 other dungeon in the Stronghold biome. And then we'll also be releasing the forest. So there's a whole new sort of area that you'll be exploring. And then after that, there will be the pits, which is kind of the final scene. These things are kind of subject to change a little bit, but this is the main idea. And the story will kind of finish up there, but we're also looking at, once we've released, adding on dungeon packs and maybe card packs on top of that as well. So that's kind of the definite things that will go in there. And the extra 2 classes, so the archer and the cleric will be in there as well. But I think, the thing that I did a little survey on Discord the other day on what people really wanted, and every 4 or 5 people that sort of come up to me and talk to me about the game at conferences and various stuff, they always ask me this question: what about PvP? I think I would love to do that. I think it would really add to the game. So we might look at, maybe it'll be after release, looking at trying to put in an aspect of player versus player.
What's your go-to caffeinated beverage when working on the game?
Well, I start my day with a extra hot oat milk flat white. So yeah, that's my favorite.